Hello, my name is Paul Wilson from PRwilsonmedia. A very warm welcome to Engage, how to run an effective social media campaign. As you can see from the graphic, this is the final part of a 3-stage video training course: Configure, Build and Engage. Please go to our website at www.prwilsonmedia.com, and there you'll find, as you scroll down, a video, 3 steps to social media success. Please watch this for a brief summary of what's included in the overall course. Now, if you've put into practice the guidance from the first 2 parts of the course, you are now in a prime position, ready to engage your audience. For me, the real magic of social media lies in its ability to connect communities, bringing people and groups who share a common interest together, regardless of where they're physically located. Let me begin by telling you the story of a local fundraising event that went global through the power of social media. The very event, in fact, that convinced me to take up a new career as a full-time social media consultant. For more than 23 years, the Rotary Club of Grantham has held a swim marathon event, raising over £600,000 for local charities. Inspired by London Olympic Year 2012, we set out to share the magic of our event with Rotary clubs around the world. I had the absolute honour of leading a vigorous 10-month Facebook and Twitter campaign, using videos, pictures, regular updates, getting support from clubs and sporting celebrities across the world. Despite the obvious time zone and language barriers, we were able to keep everyone fully engaged and up to date through social media. Then on Saturday the 25th of February 2012, at 12 noon Greenwich Mean Time, more than 4,500 people, including Paralympic and Olympic stars, lined up in absolutely simultaneous events organised by more than 100 clubs in 23 countries. This picture shows participants from just about every corner of the globe: Grantham, India where it was afternoon, Pakistan where it was early evening, Australia where it was 10 o'clock at night, the USA where in parts it was 4 in the morning, South Africa, Mexico and Tenerife. They all swam in that exact same hour, whatever the local time of day, and took part in what was officially recorded by Guinness World Records as the biggest global simultaneous charity swimming event in history. Worldwide fundraising from this now annual event for End Polio Now, which has just completed its 2nd year, has already exceeded $200,000, and it has greatly increased global awareness of Rotary International's 28-year campaign to eradicate polio. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of an event involving over 10,000 people is the fact that virtually all of this was organised and coordinated by just one club and by a core team of just 3 people, and that not one penny of the club's money was spent on publicity. The great news is that the techniques I'm about to share with you are very much a repeatable model. The same principles apply, whether it's for a small local gathering or a major community event. Planning is essential, and careful consideration is required in order to deliver real results. Before embarking on any social media campaign, it's very important to set very well defined and realistic targets from the outset. There are a number of key questions that need to be addressed before you can get underway. Number 1, what is your primary objective? Are you looking to increase awareness of your existing product or services? Are you aiming to attract new customers or generate new business? Are you planning for a specific event? If so, is that an established event or is it something new? These are the kind of questions you need to consider. Number 2 is campaign duration. You need to determine how long you will run the campaign for and how much time you can allocate to run it on a weekly basis. be prepared to adjust this during periods of peak audience interaction. For example, when you're live reporting during an actual event. If it's a specific event already scheduled in your calendar, it should be fairly straightforward. As a basic rule of thumb, to generate sufficient interest and support in an event, you need to start a minimum of 6 weeks before the deadline date. The third consideration is your target audience size. Make sure that you set easily measurable targets, such as number of new followers on Twitter or number of likes for your Facebook page, and make sure you track them carefully. Number 4, the existing social media setup. Now, do you already have existing Facebook or Twitter accounts that you can make use of, or do you need to create entirely new ones? You need to select appropriate names for your Facebook page and Twitter accounts, and make sure you have a logo or picture ready to use. Finally, website integration. Do you have an existing website, or do you need to set one up from scratch? Can the links to the social media accounts be added to that website? Now, I would say that a functional website is an absolutely essential ingredient for social media campaigns. When you generate interest through social media, it's so important to be able to direct users to where they can find more information and detail. I'd like to share with you an example of just how useful a well-constructed website can be. This is www.gravityfields.co.uk. Now, in 2012, there was a very special, brand new, multi-event science and arts festival dedicated to Grantham's most famous son, Sir Isaac Newton. I had the honour of leading the social media campaign for the festival, and I was greatly helped by this fantastically well presented website. Here you can see on the right hand side, science, arts, family, heritage. You could search by different types of event depending on your needs. If you're looking for family events that you could take part in, if you're looking for professors talking about the latest innovations in science, you could find exactly what you wanted to, and it was easy to share different messages on different days and keep things fresh on the social media campaign. So do try and make sure you have a website in place before you start, and it could even be something as simple as a freely available, free to set up blog such as WordPress or Blogspot, which could be developed into a website further down the track. Now, following on from the initial planning phase, raising awareness is the next key stage in any social media campaign. Even if it's for a well-established annual event, product or service, there's always an opportunity to use social media channels to increase that potential audience. Many of these strategies we've covered in the build part of the course, but here are a recap of some of the simple strategies you can easily deploy. Ask the network for help. Many of your existing contacts will already have a well-established social media presence. Let's take a Rotary Club as an example. On Twitter, if you search for Rotary, you can find the main Rotary International account. I'll just demonstrate that. So you type in Rotary in the search area. You can see the results returned there, Rotary International. As you'll see, as well as the messages from Rotary International site itself, there are others that it's retweeted, and from Rotary clubs around the world and the Rotary Britain and Ireland site, etc. And the great thing is, when you do get retweeted, if you say please retweet, then they will share it with 202,000 people. Here's some examples where Rotary have retweeted a request from Rotary Global Swim about the event, and the message is there: please RT, we're now the proud owners of the world record, etc. These are simple to construct little tweet messages that can really help you reach a much bigger audience, especially in those early days. Second point is to engage with the relevant interest groups. Use those Twitter lists we've shown in the build to organise your followers into their interest groups, local media contacts, businesses and clubs. Look at which of those are most active and just introduce yourself to them. When you're on Facebook, search for and like pages of other relevant organisations and promote them as featured likes. I'll just show you how you do that. Here I am on the Rotary Global Swim Marathon Facebook page, and if you just scroll down a little bit here you can see likes. Guinness World Record, Rotary Club of Grantham Swim Marathon, Rotary Club of Grantham. So I've featured a certain core number of pages that are always on the page. The way you do that is you go to Admin Panel, Edit Page, Edit Settings. You click on Featured, and you can see there are 5 likes that I've chosen, but you can just edit Feature Likes, and you can pick any of these if there was another Rotary Club in your local area perhaps, and just click Save when you're done. So you just would select a checkbox and then click Save when you're done. I'll cancel that. And so that's how you show featured likes. The third suggestion is be consistent and use your time efficiently. It is important to maintain a presence on a daily basis on Twitter, I would say, and at least 2 to 3 times a week on Facebook. You need to be disciplined in setting yourself some specific time windows each day when you'll be active on Twitter and Facebook, and then stick to them. Now, research has shown, and I'll just show you a graphic here, that depending on the geographic spread of your audience, either mornings between 9 to 10 or early afternoons Monday to Thursday between 1 and 3 p.m. are ideal. I would certainly suggest spreading out your updates for a few minutes 2 or 3 times a day rather than in one daily long block. So let me tell you about the 3 R's. In this context, reply, recommend and retweet. Don't just broadcast a stream of tweets or Facebook messages, because your audience will soon lose interest and you won't really reach anyone new. Make sure you get involved with the conversations out there. Search for interesting topics. On Twitter you can use hashtags. Hashtags precede a word. They can be the theme of the day. Particular words that people, when they're talking about a specific event, will use, like hash X Factor or hash Wimbledon. You comment, you mention, you share, you retweet. This will get you noticed. If people aren't interacting with you, building a relationship and helping expand the reach of your audience, then your likes of a page, the followers on Twitter, are nothing more than a number. And if you retweet someone, they're much more likely to tweet you back. There's a definite principle here of pay it forward. By contributing helpful information and supporting others without expecting something in return, you will benefit. You need to be the go-to person with the information that people follow for news on a specific topic or subject. Every day when you log in to Twitter, go to the @Connect button and see interactions there. Who's been in touch, whether that's someone mentioning you, following you, favoriting messages from you. This is the place to check out, the first place when you log in. And when it comes to Facebook, you check the notifications to see who's mentioned you, who's tagged you, etc. The same principle. Finally, check out the competition. Visiting the Facebook pages and Twitter profiles of your peers really can act as a useful guide on how to structure your campaign. Have a look at how other similar organisations interact with their followers on social media. The key is to identify popular conversations and themes. Often, as I've mentioned already, they'll have a particular hashtag during their event. This is something that started on Twitter and is very widely used, but is now even adopted by Facebook. Giving an example from the festival I mentioned, Gravity Fields, the Cheltenham Science and Arts Festivals are very much the benchmark for festivals in the UK. And so it was a perfect way to learn about how to build a campaign on social media during the actual event in, I believe it was July last year. A search for hashtag CheltSciFest produces all of these results from the Cheltenham Science Festival, particularly during an event, of course. You can see which well-known scientific people have attended the event and have a look at their followers. There's so many things to learn, and this festival account itself, with its 17,000 followers, a real benchmark to learn. And though you could create a private list and follow them stealthily, there are times where it's useful to engage. Here, for example, I've had a conversation where I've mentioned that our festival is coming up. Hope it goes well. Always great to see a new science festival. So perfect. They share with their following, and a lot more people become aware of your event. So you've raised awareness. Now, how do you build that loyalty? You must keep everyone interested. As I've said before, maintain a consistent presence on social media, because any prolonged periods of inactivity can result in losing followers and likes. You've got to maintain momentum. So here's some of the key ways you can do that. This one is very simple. If someone takes the trouble to follow you or like your page, return their courtesy, follow them back, like their page. It's simple but highly effective. The second thing is, again, a Twitter-based one, weekly mentions, hashtag FF. Follow Friday. There are certain days of the week, and Friday is certainly a very popular one, where people mention people who've interacted with them the most over the previous week, or even people that they've known for a while on social media and they want to recommend others to follow them. It's a great way to do it as a discipline. Select 10 or 20 accounts each week and say hashtag follow Friday. During Gravity Fields we did this regularly, and sometimes even follow Friday the entire list of people as well, sharing the list of all the people who are Gravity Fields supporters. $283 members on that list, because it just built and built and built, and it's certainly helped spread the word, because if someone gets a mention, they often just retweet it to their own followers, so the word spreads. The third point is keep it real. You need to find your own voice. You must always maintain a professional approach and remember the job you're there to do. But you really can inject some personality into messages. Be creative with your 140 characters on Twitter. On Facebook, as we have with the Gravity Fields page, somebody posted this fantastic image of a banana being incredibly upset with an apple grabbing all the glory because of the Isaac Newton connections. It's there permanently on the page, and there's lots of different ways to mix and match what you talk about in your postings, pictures, videos, web links, etc. Because of the conversation-based nature of Twitter, it can be ideal to get people joining in and taking part. For example, a little thing, hashtag Newton Wave. Here's an eminent professor, expert in Newton's history, and Dr. Stuart Clark, astronomer, etc. But there he is Dr. Stu Clark give us a wave and responding to it. So, just from time to time, I'm not saying all the time with this sort of trivial whatever approach, but why not engage just in your own little voice? It's all about your own technique, what works for you in those messages. You'll know that best, and you'll discover it over time, but go for it. And this ties in very nicely with knowing your audience. Do use those freely available tools that can help you analyze your followers. On Facebook, you can look at who's responded to a particular message. In the actual administration page, you can see the graphics about the makeup of your audience and who shares it. Again, if you've put the work in building the audience in the first place, then you should have a much better chance that audience will respond and react. But if something develops, a new strand, a new area to explore, then by all means follow that. Look for those new angles. Less repeats and more variety. Don't keep sending out tired old messages. Share different types of content, as I've said, blogs and pictures and videos. Just to give you an example of the Twitter homepage for Rotary Grantham. And this is something that's common for all Twitter accounts, that whenever, if you click on the profile, the underlined text, whenever there are photos and videos shared, they actually appear here, so you can see the most recent ones. Everything from the Rotary International Convention to one of the horse events, and pictures there. Again, it's never a case of one size fits all, and the way people will interact and follow an individual Twitter account differs significantly from how they engage with a branded corporate account or event. The tools that you can use are constantly evolving, so what works today will not necessarily be as effective a year from now. So keep testing and refining your strategy, and don't be afraid of changing your approach from time to time in the light of the results and responses that you see. I've often said that one of the great joys of social media is that you never know where the next opportunity may spring from. In this fast-moving information age, news can spread extremely quickly, and it's the immediacy of social media that makes it ideally suited to sharing events as they happen. Particularly in the final weeks leading up to and then during an event, effective engagement with the press and broadcast media online is very important for any social media campaign. Here are some of the main points to consider. Create a media list. On Facebook, create an interest list, and create a list on Twitter, as I'll demonstrate, that covers local media. So this is the Gravity Fields account. Click on Home, click on the profile page, click on Lists, and subscribe to, and I'll just follow down here, Gravity Fields Media. So those 11 members, you can see that they're online, that they're talking today, and obviously during an event, ideal way to get in touch with those people, especially if there's something that you need to move quickly on. Secondly, engage with relevant topical news. If there's a big story, whether that's local or national, that's especially relevant to your event or organization, get involved and talk about it. Use the hashtags, comment on forums and pages, be part of it. A great example of that was about 3 weeks before the Gravity Fields Festival was due to start. The Paralympic opening ceremony took place and featured very heavily Sir Isaac Newton and the connections between that and the development of science and progress. Isaac Newton actually trended on Twitter, and as all of the pictures of the giant apple were rolling in, so many people were sharing these images and talking about the festival at the same time. I think my favourite tweet about it was this one. Loved your 3-hour advert during the Paralympics opening. It really was like that, a completely unexpected development, but it's very relevant to the event. Okay, so number 3 is highlight new event stories. So if you have a new update to share or discover articles written elsewhere about your event, you can draw more traffic to your website by breaking these stories, adding the links to these articles on Twitter and Facebook. It's always better when your own event is reported in several places at the same time by others. Now this is the reports, the tweets, the messages that were coming in during the big night of the Gravity Fields Festival, a transformation of a town, 10,000 people in the streets of Grantham enjoying a completely new experience, and the tweets were just rolling in on that one day. Proud of the town tonight. Fantastic fun. Everything was really positive, lots of pictures. Were you there? Somebody's quote, that was Grantham's Olympics. In these situations, all you can do is capture what's going on elsewhere. You really need to seize the moment. Because in terms of media attention, you must always remember that most stories and events have a limited lifespan, and you need to be able to react quickly to capitalize on opportunities. At times like these, it's your opportunity to be the story by using attention-grabbing language, powerful images to get your event noticed. If enough people share, social media quickly spreads and on occasion can go viral. So keep monitoring all the channels out there. TV, radio, newspapers will all be competing to get the news out there first to their audiences. I'll give you a great example of that. This was on the second day of the Gravity Fields Festival when Astronomer Royal Professor Martin Rees came specially to Grantham to unveil a new plaque commemorating Sir Isaac Newton. I was contacted the following morning by a reporter from BBC Lincolnshire website online asking if there was any pictures of the unveiling ceremony. Now, even though I had limited time access to the internet where I was at the moment, I knew that I'd tweeted about it and pointed her towards a video of the opening address that I'd taken, and also a basic photo that I had from my camera. Well, as this message says here, the story has been on the England page for most of the afternoon. It went on to BBC Lincolnshire, and then the article found its way as one of the headline stories on BBC England for most of the day. And this very picture was taken with my shoddy little HTC smartphone, and all of the text that you see here is taken, and the quotes were taken from that video footage that was captured at the time. So incredible how quickly news can become mainstream. This went onto the national site on the News England site. So there's no better time to make full use of social media and its instant updates and live reporting from events. You need to be everywhere, even though you can't physically be in several places at once. Especially with simultaneous events happening, you need to make full use of the regular audience that you've built up and are attending, because they will be sharing the pictures and updates. People will write their own blogs and publish their own photos and videos, and your job is simply to pick out the best of them and share them as quickly as possible. You've got to be organized though. Let me show you a social management tool. Hootsuite. There's similar ones. TweetDeck, which can manage multiple accounts at a time and look for different messages. You can also have Facebook and Twitter within the same console. So here is the console for Hootsuite, hootsuite.com, and you've got Twitter account, you've got the Facebook feed there. Looks like I need to update that. The current account's up to date. But one of the key things you can do with this, as well as look at the individual hashtags and messages that are coming in, is you can schedule tweets. Now I have to emphasize that it's important to be careful and guarded about doing this as a regular occurrence. Perhaps in the case of the Global Swim Marathon, where it's going round the world and an audience eventually at different time zones, it's appropriate to have some while we're sleeping in the UK, some messages going out there. But just don't do this as a regular habit, because it becomes obvious to your followers. I've seen cases where there are literally updates every few seconds because somebody has automatically scheduled a quote system, so it just puts out new quotes all the time. It can be very irritating for your followers. So here you would just select the time and the date you want to schedule, and then you compose the message as you would. And you can do this for both Facebook and Twitter. My overall advice is, although Hootsuite is good particularly during a very active period of an event, in general cases, when you have a smartphone where you can switch between one Twitter account and another, or one Facebook page and another, you don't actually need to be constantly managing it from one console. Quite often it can be quite distracting to have the console open and lots of updates popping up here and there. This is fairly static at the moment, but if there was a lot of activity going on, this would be running in the background but constantly appearing on your screen. So personal view is that you get on, you organize things as best you can. During an event, definitely use it, but otherwise just stick to focusing in on one account at a time. One thing I want to highlight now, and we haven't covered this in the previous courses to date, we've covered pages, but groups are very useful indeed. Now you have to differentiate between pages and groups very carefully. Think of a page as the Facebook equivalent of a public website. Its audience is to reach as many people as possible, to attract them to the subject you're talking about. But if you want to go into a deeper level of relationship, conversation and dialogue, groups are the place to go. So in the case of Rotary Global Swim Marathon, we have the main Facebook page. We've looked at this, but it's not somewhere where you can constantly post comments and conversations, because it's not a very effective way to retain dialogue. So this is where a group comes in very handy. So let's look at the contrast here. There was a Global Swim Marathon official support group set up. You can see there straight away there's a padlock, which means that it's been closed to just the people who've been added to the group, because there's 153 members in here, and I can tell you that the majority of those people definitely organised or took part in the swim marathon. In other words, people have been invited to this group so they can, in the comfort of the discussions here, they can post messages about swim marathon. Some of these are more recent, but if we go back to the time, yes, so here's a lot of messages about the actual events that took place around the world. Here's one shot of 2 events in Mexico, 2 events in South Africa, and there are more and more features as we go down. So during an event, again, a group is an absolutely fantastic resource for people wanting to share their images and pictures with people they know are also very interested. So if we click on the star wheel here, we can edit the group settings. There are 3 options: open, closed, and secret. Now, open means that anybody can ask to join the group and access it at any time. Closed, as it would suggest, you have to be invited by a friend to join the group. And secret is where, again, you have to be invited to join a group, but it's not even visible. If you searched in the tab, that group wouldn't appear. With closed, it would appear, but you wouldn't be able to see what people are actually posting. And then you have here membership approval, so you can set up so that anyone can add or approve members, or any member can add members, but an admin must approve them. And I would recommend that setting just from the basic control point of view. If you invite all the friends in your address book to a group, and if other people do that, you can end up with thousands of members of groups in a very manageable situation. Just show you a couple of other features that are unique to groups rather than pages. Files. You're allowed to upload and share documents between members of the group. So, for example, there are even the world record certificates here in the group that people can then download from this group page. There are similarities. You can share photos, you can share events. If you have a small number of people in the group, you would be able to message other people within the group as well, but beyond 50 members this is no longer possible. If we select the home menu again, I'll just run through the process of creating a group just so you can see how straightforward it is to start one. You can see I'm a member of several groups. Click create group, and then you just type in the name. Initial members, you can have just yourself in there initially, and whether it's privacy is open, closed, or secret. So let's say a closed group, test group, and who's in my network. You just put the @ character and you can see a list of names that you might want to add to the group, and then click create. You have to have at least one person. There you go. So let's add my friend PRwilsonmedia. Peter Wilkins. There we go, and click create. And you can select an icon for the group. An apple seems appropriate with the conversations today. And this is how a brand new group would look. One thing to be very aware of is when you invite or add a friend to a group, they don't get a notification by default. What that means is they could be there without knowledge, and that's not a good practice. So do message people, say, please can I add you to this group? Otherwise you can get an unfortunate situation where they're in this group and complaining about it, posting saying, why am I in this? It's very simple for them to leave the group. You just click on that and say leave group. Obviously, as I've created this group, that will pretty much shut down the group anyway. And with that demonstration of Facebook groups, we're coming towards the end of this Engage training course. The main messages really for this section is to understand that providing you've built the foundations by configuring and then targeting an audience in stages 1 and 2, Engage is something you can learn what works for you best, and you're safe in the knowledge that you have interested groups that are going to respond. Some final thoughts on getting the most out of Facebook and Twitter. Just remember what you're there to talk about. Don't just sell, because constant self-promoting is a definite no-no. So don't plug every other message. Spread it out, share other messages, be part of the community, because that's what all this is. Remember that these 3 stages, configure, build and engage, are all part of that same journey, and you can constantly relearn, go back and change configurations, identify new audiences you can build on. But the thing is, by the time you're in the engage stage, you can just repeat and repeat and repeat. There are local media channels, websites, community websites or whichever, which allow you to publish your events, and they will promote them on your behalf. They'll send out email newsletters, they'll send out messages on social media, they'll publish things on the website. There is a much broader community that makes all of this happen. All you've got to do is devote the right time, the optimal energy, be as efficient as possible, and then the results will come. I'm very proud of the things that I've been able to do with social media over the last 2 years. When I look at Globals for Marathon, when I look at the Gravity Fields Festival, for me this really is the dream job. Waking up in the morning and looking forward to every single bit of the day ahead. Because with the sheer variety of customers and people I get to work with, all with that one thing in common: they can use social media to make a difference in what they do. Thank you ever so much for listening. Thanks for allowing me to share my experiences and my journey through all of this. I really look forward to hearing your stories about how these techniques, the configure, the build, engage model, has helped you. All the best.